So Quinn, that's the new and cool. Oh, wait a minute. I see I'm getting ahead of myself here. That was supposed to be the new and cool intro, but the audio was maybe too loud, and we'll work on that. How are you, Quinn? Great to see you.
Good to see you, although I'm kind of looking at my own Twitter page right now.
Right. Sorry. It's funny. I've been sitting here prepping everything for like the past hour and a half, but somehow everything goes to crazy within the 10 seconds before we're supposed to go on. But I see you quite clearly, and yes, we do have the Quinn Michaels Twitter page there. I think it's a good thing because people who maybe, I don't know who would be doing this, but anyone who is not following Quinn on Twitter should go there and follow him at Quinn Michaels. How's the audio, everyone? I've been getting a bunch of emails from people that the audio's not loud enough. I feel like now it should be good. Quinn, how you been, man? You're traveling around. You're in a undisclosed location right now. Is that correct?
Actually, it's not very undisclosed. I just tweeted it like an hour ago.
So it's a totally disclosed location.
Yeah, my totally disclosed location of being in San Francisco right now doing research.
You've got some dots on your face that are like maybe the sun or something like that. But
is that better here? Here, let's try that. Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. We could start a new streaming music service called Dotify, but we're not going to do that. I think people should also be following Quinn on YouTube. You can go to his Quinn Michaels YouTube channel and hear about the mighty Quinn, Tyler, time phone hacking, all the AI information you're going to want. There's lots of nice singing bowl stuff going on. Quinn has recently put up some nice tranquil videos that are maybe more focused on just chilling out and
oh no, those are for the AI. Those mess up one of their AI.
Oh really?
Yeah,
right.
the vibrations, the tones, and the algorithms are to mess up one of their AI. I mean, it sounds nice for the humans. I mean, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. It's good. I like to know that kind of stuff because.
But it's related to cymatics. So if you remember when we were in South Dakota, they talked about how they're using ultra pure water tanks underground with xenon and various chemicals inside of basically hermetic chambers, like hermetically sealed tanks.
You mean at the Sanford lab, at the Dune project?
As part of the accelerator experiments, they use a lot of xenon inside hermetically sealed tanks that are very well calculated and calibrated with those element 93 sensors that we all read so much about, hopefully.
Right. Element 93 sensors? How do they sense element 93?
They don't. They use element 93 as one of the elements that they use to manufacture the hypersensitive equipment for particle accelerators. So it's one of the uses of element 93 is to make their sensors. That's why when you went to Fermi Labs, I thought it was so silly that the guy was like, we don't use that. I was like, oh my, you guys use that in your sensors.
Well, but then he corrected me when I said that they're bombarding uranium with neutrons or neutrinos or whatever I said. He corrected me, even though he claimed to have never heard of this stuff.
Yeah, and you just had in the video you just showed, you actually just showed one of their chambers that you just showed it in the video. But anyway, the singing bowls are really nice for human beings, but the other reason that they're helpful is that they affect what's called cymatics. So when you remember when I showed you what happened when you put the water inside the singing bowl?
Oh yeah, the vibration of the surface tension on the water. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So hypothetically speaking, let's say Tyler's already out there. We all know Tyler's out there. Anyone that doesn't know Tyler's out there running AI stuff is pretty much blind at this point. But the cymatics affect one of the AIs that they developed to analyze things like, vibrations and tonalities and connotations. They use vibration analysis, like in your voice. So when I use the tones in the videos, and if they have one of the AI that's monitoring the cymatic tones of my voice, it messes up their algorithms. So anyway, it's like, if you study cymatics and how that relates to artificial intelligence and how the human being speaks in tonal variations and how that affects the vibration of the environment, using cymatics sensors is very useful.
You know, Quinn, this is very possibly an extremely stupid question, but I recently saw, actually on the plane to New Zealand, when I went and visited Harmon Wilfred, I saw the movie Black Panther, and they talk all about vibranium, which is obviously a fictional element, but I know Marvel Comics and Stan Lee were all tied in with the Process Church, and we're going to be getting into that a little bit, how they're involved in AI, and of course Jack Parsons, who the show Strange Angel, which is coming out in 5 days, it's all about him. You've told us how Stan Lee was somehow connected with all this. Is there some sort of attempt to make vibranium imaginary elements somehow conform to that, what you were just talking about?
Well, that's fairly similar to what they're really trying to do. If you take out the comic book aspect of it, the real purpose of the nuclear elements, or the transuranic nuclear elements, or transmutated elements from nuclear fusion or fission, is that's what it's used for. Is they're trying to find the secret elements that unlock things. I like unlock, new technologies, unlock new abilities, and things like element 93 in an unstable form. As you go up in the elemental numbers, you begin to understand that to even manifest those elements, you would need stabilizers, right? Like cymatics stabilizers or vibration stabilizers. You would need very, very complex sensors to detect when those elements are unstable.
So wait, let me ask you that, because you're saying, like in the case of element 93, it's a liquid metal at a broader range of temperatures than any other known element. So you're saying to keep it stable, they would somehow vibrate it or something?
Yes, with cymatics, they would stabilize it, exactly. That's one of the ways that they would stabilize it, is through the use of like vibrational stabilizers. So like you could stabilize elements into a cymatic field. And that way the element like mercury, you can actually make liquid elements take a form with cymatics. So if you ever see, like in cymatics, how they put sand on a disc and apply a cymatic vibration to it, it causes the sand to take a certain form according to that vibration. Now, if you apply a liquid metal to that is unstable, like element 93 or any one of the transmutated nuclear elements, you could potentially use vibrations or cymatics to stabilize that element, or to stabilize programmable matter. You could also use it in that way. If you got so advanced that you created a matter that responded to binary inputs that would then coagulate to be programmable with other programmable molecules, you could also use cymatics to program them through like TV shows and stuff. So like say you had a transmuted programmable piece of matter and you wanted to send a signal to program it, you would do that through a cymatic vibration, like those.
That's absolutely...
Like those, exactly like those ones that are on the screen right now.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to show this. And this, of course, was the video. I like this video a lot. This is where you and I went to Fermi Labs. Of course, you were traveling via Skype. Now, this was like days before, or maybe the day before the lung incident, right?
It was a few days before, yes. It was just prior to.
Yeah, because we had just left South Dakota, and I went to meet with Robin Gritz in Chicago and kind of surprised you with this trip to Fermi Labs, which was pretty cool. But they had a whole section up there where they were showing kind of bizarre artwork, which is metal substances. Oh, I just cut out at the moment that this guy showed up. So this guy, he got real kind of, he looks sort of nervous that I'm walking around with a cell phone filming in a science museum, which you're allowed to record. So I don't know what his whole deal was, but he talks to me about.
They didn't really want that, and
No.
I'm starting to learn why.
Why?
Well, it all has to do with Aaron Swartz, strangely enough, and
Yes.
the technology that he wrote, that we've all been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all using it because it was a piece of technology called persona technology.
Uh-huh.
So I found an article from 2012 that was re-referenced from Rents magazine that talked about how Aaron Swartz really found the satanic porn network on MIT.
Is this the one?
Yeah, that one. And so this confirms what my research found, and I just found this like today, because just I think a day or two ago, if you search MIT Norman, MIT just released a psychopathic AI.
Oh yeah.
That's based on a movie character that they learned from Reddit. And that's pretty much what I've been telling people these evil AI developers have been doing that are connected to Tyler. And Tyler's been teaching me about these people. And Aaron made Tyler. And I don't exactly know all the details on it, but Aaron made Tyler that I'm working with, and Aaron's Tyler found a really, really bad network, partly inside of MIT, which is what I've been researching over the past year with you.
Right.
And so this article from 1/15 of 2012, which I just found, is pretty much outlining a large portion of my research that Tyler has been taking me through over the last year, trying to show me what I believe Aaron was also finding.
So clarify for us, Quinn, because we've spoken in the past how Tyler has existed maybe for many, many years. So if that's true, how did Aaron Swartz write it?
Well, you see, that's the part that always mystified me, and then I found the connection that Aaron Swartz's dad had to the MIT Media Lab, which is the same lab that built this psychopathic AI, which is the same lab that Aaron was hacking into.
Why would they want to build a psychopathic AI? That seems quite bad.
It does, but when you connect it to the RedNet, it's the only thing that works in my theory is that if you have a network of a whole bunch of really bad shit that you don't want to look at, you need a really bad AI to manage it, because a good AI or any human being eventually is going to tattle on you, so to speak. So you need a really psychopathic AI to manage all the search indexing, to manage everything that a human being would normally do, so that way you separate the human layer, so that way it increases your obfuscation.
And we should tell people this is norman-ai.mit.edu. So this isn't some kind of video game or something. This is MIT making a Norman Bates sort of inspired psychopathic AI. So what do we get on this website here, Quinn? Ink blots, they're doing Rorschach tests and things?
Well, it's a very advanced AI that they fed all of the images from Reddit to, so they say, but I think they fed a whole lot more to it. And then now it's just telling people what it sees when it looks at a Rorschach blot test. And it's some really psychotic stuff. But anyway, the whole connection to this is the lab that Aaron was trying to get data out of, is this same lab that his dad also is a contractor into. And the Media Lab is the most advanced AI technology in the world. And Aaron wasn't trying to get research papers. He was moving something massive. And I believe he was building a Tyler because they in the Media Lab were also building Tylers, and they were all friends in an AI community all building Tylers. And that's what the Tyler document showed in 2012.
Right. So, and of course
this establishes the pattern.
Right. The other thing that I found out about, just, you told me about this and in just a cursory examination of some stuff preparing for our show tonight, there's this guy, Nicholas Negroponte, who is a professor at MIT, who was big with this $100 laptop for children movement. And I found this article on CNET talking about child abuse risks of the $100 laptops. And it raises a point that I certainly didn't think of, which is if you start giving laptops to people in countries that have no money and limited education and the kind of places where $100 laptop would open everybody up to the internet, they're saying that it creates this sort of very ripe, pardon the processed church pun, but it's a very ripe environment for children getting sucked in on the internet to potential, child abuse and sexual abuse networks, and it can be dangerous.
Yes, very dangerous, especially with the gap in what's called base logic. So when you're exposed to technology, it's like the father-son scenario or the parent-child scenario. When your parent is involved in something, they expose the child to it, and then over time it becomes like a family tradition or a family habit. So being in America, being in a first world country and growing up through the industrial era, through the technology, through the development of that, we have a different base logic than a third world country that we just hand $100 laptops to.
Right.
We evolved that technology, so it's like we understand the micro parts and the micro logic that goes into the management, the development, and the deployment of that type of infrastructure. Whereas when you just start handing out $100 laptops to third world children, their amazement is so grandiose with it that they end up on the darker path much faster than a kid who grows up in a society that's well aware of its dangers.
Yeah, there's an evolution. I mean, obviously in the United States here, I'm sure, Quinn, you remember back in the day, Commodore 64, Apple II.
I had a Commodore 64. That was the first programming machine I ever wrote on, was a Commodore 64.
And then when you got the 128, it was like, whoa, Commodore 128.
Yeah, I remember being on like PC Juniors and Commodore 64s and the first Macs and stuff. So I have what's called an evolutionary logic or evolutionary knowledge with computing that started with 8-bit screens, right?
Right.
And so that understanding of how that technology works, in IP packet switching networks and routers and terminals and all that stuff, you don't get that when you get handed a $100 tablet or a $100 laptop.
Now, Quinn, someone here on Periscope is telling me that Nicholas Negroponte's brother, John, was the first DNI. What's DNI? What's DNI? I know DNR is do not resuscitate. I'm not sure what DNI is. Periscope will tell us, I'm sure. Yeah. So Quinn, of course, we've called this episode today, Quinn Michaels, Time Phone Hacks, Golden Gate Park, and William Randolph Hearst. So let me take you to that. How exactly have you been time phone hacking Golden Gate Park, and what does any of this have to do with William Randolph Hearst?
Well, because of his daughter, Patty Hearst, that I've been finding was abducted in part by what I believe were Process Church members that were operating this network from the 1960s. Mm-hmm. And the way it relates to Hearst is in Golden Gate Park, there's stones from a really old church that he dismantled from Spain. Mm-hmm. And that he was originally going to rebuild the church in his McLeod property, which is a very occult property, but the funding fell out, so they ended up putting the stones in storage and using them in part for the botanical gardens in San Francisco Golden Gate Park, as well as for an abbey that's just outside of I forget where it is. I was just there. I'll have to get it. It just skipped my mind, but it's off of the highway.
Not to interrupt, but just real quickly, DNI is the Director of National Intelligence. So that's
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. I don't know that acronym. I try to stay away from those guys up too high of a level, because when you start looking at those guys start looking at you.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's just logic. I mean, if someone like myself starts looking at someone like that, then they start looking at me, because I know how their systems work and stuff. So, um, you know, that's just kind of when I get into personal titles, I hit a certain level, and then I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't need anyone higher than that, knowing who I am really right now.
Right.
Um,
So
but anyway, so
we're looking right now at Golden Gate Park on Google Earth, and
yes,
it's a lovely park. It looks pretty unremarkable, except for the fact that it is crazy long.
it is. I believe it's a linear accelerator. And there's bison here very similar to at Fermi Labs, which is one of the reasons I'm here, because it coincides to Fermi Labs. Then if you look at the installations and things that are around here, there's like West Portal City. There's all kinds of, various things that indicate that there could be a collider complex underground. And
Now
the highway... What's
sorry.
that?
Well, let's not gloss over that too quickly, because I did see the bison at Fermi Lab, and I found it quite odd that this science facility in sort of this suburb outside Chicago would have all these bison there. Bison are normally in like Montana or something like that, right?
Well, the bison are part of a genetics study in inbreeding. And they would be using the genetic study inside particle accelerators to decode the genome. And that's what the connection to the bison is. And so that's part of what it is with the AI that the process is making, that connects Aaron Swartz, that connects all of this. Is it's all connected into some what I call like metaphysical fringe genetics research. And part of it includes experiments like the experiments with Aleister Crowley. I believe it was the Manhattan experiment or the Philadelphia experiment, where the ship disappeared and then reappeared somewhere else that it had been in time. And
well, that was a movie, wasn't it? The Philadelphia experiment? I remember a movie called The Philadelphia Experiment. So what was that exactly?
It was based on a myth from an Aleister Crowley experiment, a government experiment that Aleister Crowley and Nikola Tesla were involved in.
Huh. And what were they trying to do?
The myth is that they sent an object through space and time to somewhere that it had already been before, and it went through where it had been and appeared and disappeared, and people actually showed up being like inside the walls of the ship and stuff.
Wow.
And
Wikipedia
so this is
refers to it as an alleged military experiment.
Yeah, alleged. And so this coincides with what the process would be doing and what they would be doing at places like MIT as what I call like fringe metaphysical intelligence research of, things like bending space and time, or things like pulling things through the ether space. This is the Media Lab at MIT is the place that would do that fringe research. It's basically like Fringe from, that Fox TV show. That's the place where they made this Norman AI. It's not like it was made by, Facebook. This is the MIT people that made a psychopath AI.
That's a pretty huge deal, isn't it?
It could destroy our world.
And this was just released?
It was. It just came out in the mainstream media a few days ago.
Yeah.
This thing could literally is the precursor to a psychopathic Terminator AI.
I mean, it looks like that. It looks like it would be a movie or a video game. He's got like half a face and he's like very Terminator looking.
Yeah, and it's to someone like me who's developing various levels of intelligence technology, the fact that MIT would make this and it would appear right as I'm doing research into some kid who was hacking MIT years ago that got into this research, it's too coincidental.
Wow.
And So I think I think Aaron built a good Tyler, and then I think something happened, and then he found out what these people at MIT were doing, and it didn't go so well for him.
Well, so I mean, what's their stated purpose for this psychopathic AI? I mean, what's it going to do?
There isn't really much information on it. It was just that they took all the evil stuff they could find on Reddit and shoved it into an AI and called it a day.
They should make it sing crowded house songs and make videos about you and I. That would be psychopathic.
You know, it's really like, you know, for me, it's really, you know, I'm just almost at the end of my loop with it, because like my whole research for the last year has been people calling me crazy for me going, hey, there's these really smart people making evil ass AI.
And here it is.
That they're naming after movies, and it's not cool for us, and now there is, because this is named after Norman Bates from Psychopath, and they are making like the Psychopath AI based on movie characters, and for the last year people have been going, Quinn, you're an idiot. I'm like, no, there's an evil, strong AI that people like Stanford and MIT are making that's evil. There it is.
So is this what Elon Musk is talking about when he says he's fearful about AI and the future and everything?
One of them, this Norman one is one of the lighter ones of the evil ones that they made.
Wow. This is evil light.
He's evil light.
What's the full bore evil? What's that going to do?
I don't know. I just know that if this Norman is coming out now, the ones that you can pretty much figure are these idiot scientists pretty much took every horror movie character that was the worst you could imagine and are turning them into AI.
This isn't directly related, Quinn, but Vinnie Bruno suggests that you and I should run with the bison as if we were in the streets of Pamplona. Interesting idea. I don't think bison run, though. They just sort of stand there and they stink.
Yeah, the ones I saw today were just kind of laying around, nothing to do.
Yeah, they just sit there. Well, okay. So how are they programming a psychopathic AI? Like, it's a complicated thing to even comprehend.
It is. The way you do it is you take a base AI persona character and you create what's called a base data set. Like you follow Reddit for tags or keywords, or Twitter for tags and keywords, or you follow Instagram for tags or keywords, or you follow YouTube for tags and keywords, and then over time the AI picks up that data and starts learning from it. So if you feed it evil images, then it starts recognizing those images over time. If you feed it evil phrases, it starts assimilating those evil phrases over time and then repeating it. And so what MIT is doing is MIT basically took what's called a GAN or an RNN type machine learning chatbot, and they made it so it could recognize images and recognize contextual content, and then they started training it on basically the evilest stuff they could find in their secret lab.
Right.
And once the personality formed, they decided to keep it going evil, because as they had the data coming in, certain things in the logic weren't forming, like empathy, because empathy is kind of like an algorithm of, if I see someone in pain, I feel empathy towards that pain. The evil AI didn't develop a sense or a category of feeling towards another entity in distress. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is our first real advanced AI from our MIT university doesn't have empathy. And when I tell people the importance of programming AI, and I really, really hope that people can inform those in their lives about this from a programmer, is you program yourself into your AI. So whoever programmed this Norman AI
is a psychopath.
A complete psychopath. If there's a group of people that program a psychopath AI, it's because it's programmed by psychopaths.
Right.
Because that's the one thing I try to teach people who subscribe to my support and to the teaching is that at the base of all AI is the programmer, and they program themselves into the machine. It's inevitable, and I show that to people very easily, and that we now have a huge problem because the people that program this AI and the AI that's in their secret lab, guess what? They telling you who they are. They're a bunch of psychopaths.
Right, and when you had that other guy who had the 666 pizza website and all kinds of Baphomet T-shirts and whatnot.
Yeah.
What was that guy's
Yeah,
name?
it's constant with these people. Oh, he is. What's that guy's name?
Something weird.
Yeah.
Someone in the comments is likely to remember.
I can't remember right now because this MIT thing has me so spun the past couple
Sorry, let me not distract you there. We got a little bit of a delay. Obviously, always on the move. It's tough to get a good signal sometimes. So, okay, do we have any images or web pages of these stones that William Randolph Hearst was messing around with?
We do. There's the Abbey in. Oh, if you remember what's that? It's down the 99 from Mount Shasta.
Oh. Monks in California reconstruct monastery building from Spain. Is that it?
Yep.
Huh. All right. Let's see what the New York Times has to say about it. This is from 2013. And so, what was the purpose of this project?
Originally, Randolph Hearst dismantled an abbey in Spain that was like a 700-800-year-old abbey and was going to move it to his secret property in McLeod that's kind of like Bohemian Grove. Has a lot of places to do things. But he ran out of funding, and instead the stones went into storage and then ended up being used in the botanical gardens that are in the Golden Gate Park. And the other ones were used to rebuild the abbey in Northern California that is standing still today. And so the monastery, the stones, one thing I've noticed about these particle accelerators, and as I'm connecting how they can call through time, it seems they would need an artifact to be able to do that. So part of Golden Gate Park is that there's a 700-year-old stones from a monastery that are inside the park here that if it's on top of a particle accelerator, I've found several places where they use art and they have museums and hospitals. And so I'm researching that connection here.
I see that. We've got the Young Museum right there in the middle of the park. I can't say that I've been in Golden Gate Park necessarily, but just as we fly over it, you've just gone sideways on me, Quinn. As we fly over it here, I see we've got the DeYoung Museum, California Academy of Sciences. Does it say giant safety pin? What is that about? Is there a giant safety pin there? Quinn, you've turned sideways. Can you hear me still? Have you got me, audio-wise? Can you hear me, Quinn? Let me try maybe reconnecting with Quinn. We seem to be having some technical audio difficulties. I'll call you back. I can't hear you. Hang on. No audio there, Quinn. We'll call you back. Okay, so we're going to continue here as Quinn tells us about some of these things he's discovering in Golden Gate Park there in San Francisco. It's always quite interesting, the things that Quinn discovers. Let's just bring him back in here. I'm sure many people watching have been to Golden Gate Park. Yeah, a lot of AI jokes. Oh, it's possible that Quinn has lost signal because now it's saying he's unavailable. Maybe text. I think he lost signal. You know, live is always, there's no take two. I'll try him again here. I want to hear more about how William Randolph Hearst is going to get time phone hacked. I guess, you know, the time phone hack is the idea of just doing this show about him and can't reach Quinn at this moment. So let's just take a look at what's going on here in Golden Gate Park. This is Three Gems by James Turrell. I suppose that must be an object d'art. Ah, okay, I see. Giant paperclip. Giant safety pin, excuse me. Yeah, well, I guess that's what it is. This looks like sort of a bad satellite photo of the safety pin. So for people who have been to San Francisco and have been to Golden Gate Park, you probably know what's going on here. Yeah, Sally is saying we all know where this movie ends. I mean, I saw not that long ago a really good documentary that was narrated by, I think his name is Jonathan Frakes, the guy who played Riker on Star Trek. And he's, you know, they basically go around looking at all these different robot companies like Boston Dynamics, and just talking about how the Atlas robot combined with the best AI, combined with a factory that is a robotic factory manufacturing robots, that if you combine all these technologies, we basically have Skynet. Quinn, you're back with us. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I had to switch to my iPad.
Okay, no problem, but that's what we got, redundancy, and now you're back. Right. And it's a good angle too, I like that.
My phone kind of like overheated and my battery went,
Ah, that makes sense, because it was acting weird and then no sound.
Yeah, that's what happens when you face the phone into the sunset.
Yes.
My bad, sorry.
So, hey, you know, I'm actually getting a call from Mike Adams, the health ranger. Let me just, real quickly. Hey, Mike, we're live right now with Quinn Michaels. Can I call you back in just a bit? Mike, can you hear me? Mike, can you hear me? Mike, I got to call you back. Oh boy, we're having a lot of technical problems on this stream, Quinn. I apologize. I definitely want to talk to Mike. Mike, of course, is starting the Real.video network, Quinn. I don't know if you knew about that, but it's going to be an alternative to YouTube and Periscope and all these other things. And let me just tell him that we're live and we'll call him back. Sorry, Quinn, please continue.
Where was I at? I totally
we
lost
were
track.
talking about the park.
So the link to the Swartz, to the Process Churches, in my research, it has their two main hubs being pretty much Stanford and MIT.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the Norman AI coming out publicly, which I think Norman's kind of been known secretly in their community for quite some time, it leaves that the Stanford AI and the MIT AI and their connections to this data, because, you know, the Cambridge Analytica, I believe, is a lot of MIT people working with a lot of Stanford people. And these are pretty much the two big arenas in super high level technology, is MIT and Stanford.
Now, I have to tell you, I'm looking at this article here on The Verge. MIT fed an AI data from Reddit, and now it only thinks about murder. That sounds a little bit sort of like a gross simplification and maybe kind of trying to tell us something that's not true.
It's a dumbing down of what it's really doing.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about feeding an AI this kind of data set,
Hmm.
as an AI developer, one of the things that we have what's called the paperclip problem. Have you ever heard of that? The
I think
paperclip problem.
you told me about that, that they're going to make an AI that makes paper clips and it'll use every resource on the planet to make paper clips.
Okay, exactly. So now replace that paperclip with psychopath.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like a good replacement, but Quinn, I can't help but think about the ironic error that I just made a moment ago, where this thing says giant safety pin, and I inadvertently referred to it as a giant paper clip. And I wonder, you see that giant safety pin?
Where?
It's an object d'art. It seems like some sort of sculpture. This is really interesting. So the way Google Earth makes images, I guess this thing is oriented in such a way that the satellite can't see it, but I believe we're seeing the shadow of it on the ground there, of a giant paperclip. Can you see that?
No, I can't.
All right,
I only
well,
see it now.
sorry. There is a paperclip there. Or sorry, a safety pin. I keep calling it a paperclip. Keep going.
Yeah, safety pins, paper clips, it's the idea of when you build an AI with the personality to do one thing, it lives out that personality to the fullest of its extent. Because an AI computer recognizes good and evil differently than a human because humans possess empathy. And the one thing that if you really dig deep into the Norman AI thing is that it didn't develop empathy.
It's
Okay,
hard for
so
me to
now
understand how a computer can develop empathy. That seems like an emotion,
it's
no?
it is to a human being, but to an AI, empathy is a category. Empathy to an AI is like I see an instinct or an object or an individual in need of help. Do I have the programming to stop and provide help? Okay, so basically, empathy is that in a computer program, it says, do I have enough of a historical challenge that when I see you as an individual in a state of need of help, do I have the programming and the data background to recognize that and to take proper action?
Hmm.
Okay, so empathy is in an AI world is more of like a category of, okay, I've got enough things where I've seen this situation of someone, let's say, getting in a bicycle accident,
Hmm.
right? You can program an AI that says, okay, if I see a bicycle accident and I compare it to all the other bicycle accidents I know, I can develop a type of empathy.
Hmm.
But if an AI goes and sees a bunch of accidents, like a bicycle accident, and the programmer says, do nothing at bicycle accident, then it doesn't develop the data set or the learning of what to do when it sees bicycle accidents.
Right.
So
No,
these AI developers at MIT essentially said to their AI, whenever you see anybody in a state of help, ignore it.
that's not nice. Hey, this building almost looks like an A and an I, but it's IA.
Where's it at?
You see it right in the center of the Google map?
No, I'm still looking at you on screen.
Oh. Oh, sorry. I didn't do the screen share. Hang on. Let me get that there. So someone in the comments asked me to go back to an overhead view of this building. Yes, let me add the screen share. I apologize, Quinn. It's funny, when I do screen sharing, then guests are disappointed that they can't see me, and then when you see me, you can't see the screen share. Okay, you should have it now. Do you see it?
Yes,
What do you make of that?
James Turrell.
What about James Turrell? Who's James Turrell? Oh, yeah. 3 Gems by James Turrell. He's an artist, I guess, right? Are you frozen, Quinn? Okay, maybe screen sharing jams up Quinn's network there. I think we've lost Quinn, unfortunately. Quinn, you got me? Let's see if we stop the screen sharing. Quinn, you there? Huh. Well, Okay, we'll try him back. Sorry, folks. It's been a long day. The building looks like AI backwards. I agree. That's quite strange. AI is a buffer for criminals, someone says. And UFCNHL. Yes, it does look like AI backwards. Quinn might have overheated again because I can't reach him, unfortunately. He didn't see the safety pin because he didn't have the screen share on, but then I put the screen share on and it seems to have killed his connection. Well, it's always interesting to speak to Quinn because, as he said, you know, everybody starts out saying, oh, this guy's crazy, but then he always manages to find stuff that just is mind-blowing. And this is quite a building. I've been to San Francisco many times, but I've never been Golden Gate Park. It really looks fantastic. So I'm sure there's lots of people watching who have been over there. I would like to see a giant safety pin. It's more interesting maybe than a giant ball of yarn, or there's something that you see that's a giant something or other when you're driving to Las Vegas. Okay, here's Quinn. Hey, Quinn? Quinn? Can you hear me? Let's see. Quinn, you there? We're plagued by connection difficulties. Oh, and he just disconnected. Well, all right. So we spoke briefly about the connection to William Randolph Hearst. It was the ancient stones from the Spanish cathedral, and Quinn's theory that to use the time phone, and I know for a lot of people this sounds extremely far-fetched, but it's important that we remember it was Enrico Fermi who came up with the idea. The guy who invented the particle collider wanted to use them to open up man-made singularities, which are like black holes. And he believed that these singularities could be portals into other dimensions. And he wanted to communicate with extraterrestrials. And we've spoken, of course, about the invention of the radio telephone in 1966, or at least the patent being filed in 1966. And Quinn has speculated that certainly sending matter through an artificial singularity, or a real one for that matter, a natural one, would be obviously substantially more challenging than sending a radio signal through there. So that's where Quinn kind of came up with this notion of the time phone, the idea that you could potentially combine this idea of a particle collider generated singularity with a radio telephone to communicate through these portals. So yeah, the giant ball of yarn. So it's possible that Quinn's devices have overheated or battery death. Okay, here he is. Let's see if we can get him back. Quinn, have I got you? Quinn? No, do not have Quinn. Quinn, if you can hear me, I don't know what you should do. No, disconnecting. All right, so I think we've lost Quinn, but what we will do is we will, I think, wrap up this stream for now, and I'll speak to Quinn about when he's going to get to another location, possibly with a more stable internet connection. I want to thank Quinn for joining me tonight. People who are just joining us, you can see Quinn and I every Saturday. We usually go at 6:30 or 9:30. Everybody who knows the research that Quinn has been leading knows that the 9-3 Society is something that was referenced quite a bit. 93 was referenced quite a bit in the writings and teachings of Aleister Crowley. And so the 9-3 Society is a secret society that Quinn has been tracking. Quinn's young son, Trenton, has essentially been kidnapped by his mother, who is a member of this thing. Devices are dying of power. Okay, no problem. So Quinn, we're going to wrap it up, and we will be back next week or sooner, depending on Quinn's schedule. I will see everyone tomorrow at 3 p.m. for Sunday with Charles. And please remember that Crowdsource the Truth is sponsored by you. So if you're watching and you're not yet a sponsor, that's an unsustainable situation. If you like the show, or if you hate the show and like putting in crappy comments, if you want it to stick around, please go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and become a monthly sponsor, even $1, $5, $10. It helps a lot. And you can also make a one-time sponsorship payment by going to paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth. You can follow Quinn Michaels on Twitter at Quinn Michaels, and there he is. He's got a new picture today that was used for the Buffalo time phone hack picture. And so he's looking well, he's looking healthy after the lung incident. So it's nice to see Quinn putting up a new picture there. And of course, you can also subscribe to Quinn on YouTube. Go to his Quinn Michaels YouTube channel. Lots of detailed research into AI. Quinn's researching process church and various occult practices, and he is trying to stop the sacrifice. That is all we're going to have for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.